Earlier, my colleague Nalini Sharma spoke to former diplomat, Vice Dean of the Jindal Global Law University, Professor Vasselin Popovski, about what the international humanitarian law says on the ongoing armed conflict between Israel and Hamas and what international obligations are that are clearly being violated in this war.
What's happening right now in Israel and between the Israeli government and the Hamas armed groups. So just to start off a discussion, when we talk about international humanitarian law in the time of a war like we are seeing in the Middle East right now, what do you think are the main principles that the parties that are engaging in this armed conflict need to keep in mind? And how are those rules, if in your opinion, being violated right now?
Yes, first of all, the international humanitarian law has two major parts, so to speak, and one is the justification to use force, but also the conduct of war, what force can be used. And for that matter, it is important to divide the two, because one party can have a perfect justification saying that they have been occupied for 70 years and they have the right cause to fight, is not enough. You have a second part, which is the method of fighting, the way of fighting. You might have the best cause and say, I have been humiliated, I have been abused for many years, they occupy my territory. You might have excellent justification to fight, but if the method of fighting is terrorist, is killing women and children randomly, then somehow you lose also the first justification. And there are plenty of examples, you can go back to the Irish Republican Army in Northern Ireland, where at some point, finally, fortunately, they changed the tactics. And this applied to Palestinian Liberation Organization. There were periods of time in history where the organization also did a lot of horrible terrorist acts. We remember 1972, the Olympic Games in Munich, when they abducted sports people from Israel and later killed them. They were not successful Israel was not successful in rescuing them. But at some point, and this is why Yasser Arafat got a Nobel Peace Prize, because he renounced the terrorist fighting. When the Palestinians denounce that, they become a partner in negotiation. When IRA in Northern Ireland renounce terrorism, they become a political negotiator. Before that, it's very difficult to accept that. On the other hand, we also know a history of war crimes and crimes against humanity committed by the Israeli Defense Forces, most recently in 2014, when kind of an indiscriminate bombing of part of Gaza has produced what in the international humanitarian law we call excessive civilian suffering. And that is a violation of the international. So the military, when they undertake an operation, they have very carefully to consider the possibility of civilian suffering. What is called usually collateral damage is acceptable, but to a very minimal volume. Any excessive civilian suffering because of a military operation is regarded in international law as excessive, as violating the international humanitarian law. But we can say that already 6 days since last Saturday, since the attack by Hamas, we see, I will say, some restraint on behalf of Israel. Israel didn't send immediately its army into Gaza. They are cautioning people. They just gave another signal that they invite 1.1 million of the population of Gaza to move south, making clear that they are going to attack the north of Gaza. And they advise the population simply to drive 10 kilometers south, 15 kilometers south, and be safe there. They are not going to attack indiscriminately.